What was the total quantum of fraud in Satyam scandal?
14,000 crores.
How many hours you used to sleep on an average and how many hours you used to work?
All that I remember is calls used to come at early morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock from US. So you finish that and sleep.
Tech Mahindra bid for 58 rupees per share. Was the valuation fair according to you?
According to me, Satyam shares was 150 rupees. If you look back, the employee size is 150,000.
How much money was paid to everyone here who were supposed to rescue Satyam? Hello sir, welcome to Conversation with Kushal. Once again sir, thank you so much. This is the second time you are coming here. It's an absolute honor to host you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, Kushal. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to join you for the second time for this podcast.
Yes sir, thank you so much. I remember the advice that you had given me in the previous conversations. I've really tried to implement them in my real life as well. Some of them which I really remember, and I quote it in my speeches as well. Never take success to your mind, otherwise you will have ego issues. Take success to your heart. Just celebrate it with a 1-year-old kid who's given an ice cream, and never take failure to your heart, otherwise you will keep complaining. Take it to your mind, analyze what went wrong and keep moving on. So these are some piece of advice which I have always kept in my mind. So thank you so much for all those nuggets of wisdom.
I'm happy to know that you are able to recall what we discussed at the earlier
Yes
occasion.
sir, absolutely. That was one of the most inspiring podcasts, and today also we are going to discuss everything about Satyam scandal and how did you revive that entity in a span of 100 days. And I've read the book, by the way, the Tech Phoenix, which is here itself. And sir, when I say this, I mean it completely. This is the first book which I have read in 2 readings only. I have not read any book in 2 readings. And secondly, this is the first book when I cried, honestly. I've never cried while reading a book, and especially I'll tell you the moment when I cried, when you mentioned that you wanted your dad to see you getting the award of Padma Shri, and unfortunately he couldn't see because he was blind. And I was so into tears that I was getting goosebumps. So firstly, thank you so much for writing this masterpiece, and really you have inspired me a lot. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Perfect sir. So let's talk about the Satyam scandal. Let's deep dive into that. This happened in 2009. So just wanted to understand when did you get a call from the government of India and what was your reaction?
Yeah. The confession letter from Ramalinga Raju occurred on 7th of January. That's when he sent a mail and communication to stock exchanges, SEBI and the board of directors. So the entire world, and more particularly the corporate India, were in for a rude shock. And within 48 hours, so to say, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Prime Minister's Office, and the advisors, everybody got on the subject, and they deputed then NASSCOM President, Monumental, to Hyderabad, who went and met the top executives of Satyam to get to know the feel of the ground reality, the crisis erupting, and how things are, falling apart. So all those things. And then he went back to Delhi, briefed the government, Prime Minister's Office, Ministry, got their acts together. And, there were, if you look around, they must have first thought of a bailout plan.
What do you mean by bailout plan exactly?
Bailout plan is whatever money is required to bring the business back on track for whatever duration. Government will keep on pumping money so out of their coffers. So that will keep the company going, because you will keep paying salaries, you will keep paying dues, so nobody will stop rendering anything. So things will go on, but there may not be corresponding income, profit and all that. So sometimes it may go down the drain if the operation is not successful. So that could have been one, which standing example was US. But both, first one looked bad because Indian context, I don't think public will take it easily or lightly if taxpayers' money is used to bail out a private sector company. So under that circumstances, I think the government must have thought we must somehow create a new model of resurrecting the company. And the best way to do is public-private partnership. Government will offer all the legal, moral support, but it will not pump in any money. But to do the job, it will not depute any of its bureaucrats who are otherwise busy and have their own roles and responsibilities, but it will pick up select individuals in divergent fields who are required for such an operation and pose them as a team, rescue team. And that is why they moved the company law board to dissolve the then existed board and nominated and constituted a new board with 6 of us as special directors.
Got it. So 7 Jan 2009 was the day when Mr. Ramalinga Raju sent that email to
Confession,
SEBI.
yeah.
And when did the government reach out to you?
So it took some time for this consultative process. Then once this decision was freezed that this is the strategy, this is the approach, then the Ministry of Corporate Affairs Secretary, Mr. Anurag Goyal, he had the shortlisted names given by the Prime Minister's office in concurrence with the ministry, and Mr. Montek Singh Alwalia, who was then the Planning Commission Vice Chairman. Prime Minister was the chairman and he was the vice chairman. He played a critical role in all this process. And this Secretary of Ministry of Corporate Affairs started contacting these shortlisted individual personalities. So they could, for example, I got a call on 9th or 10th of January. And so on 11th, they wanted to announce the names, all the names. So the first 3, namely Kiran Karnik, who was past chairman of NASCOM, Deepak Parekh, chairman of HDFC, and Achyutan, former chairman of Company Law Tribunal and member of SEBI, a legal expert. So one IT sector personality, one banker, and I'm a corporate giant, Deepak Parekh, and another is a legal expert. So these 3 were announced on 11th of January, and they flew down within 24 hours to Hyderabad and held the first meeting on 12th January. That is when they took stock of things, and they said, we are trying to understand the gravity of the situation, and when our other colleagues also joined, we'll be able to take measures to commence the rescue operation.
Got it.
Then all the formalities of LIC nominee, once it got through, on 15th of January, the next set of 3 names were announced. Tarun Das, who was mentor of CAI, a legendary personality known in industrial sector.
CAI is Confederation of Indian Industry.
Confederation of Indian Industry. He was Director General of CII for quite a number of years. Then he became mentor and like that. So he was nominated. Then LIC nominee S.B. Balakrishna Mainak. And I was chosen from the finance field. Maybe because while I was in the council of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India from 2001 to 2007 for 6 long years. 4 years I served as the council member. Then 5th year I became the vice president, and 6th year, that is 2006-07, I was the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And since our Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is under an Act of Parliament, Chartered Accountants Act 1949. It is a regulated entity by the Government of India. It is a chartered profession, not an association. So Ministry of Corporate Affairs is the regulating ministry for the profession.
Got it. So how much money was paid to everyone here who were supposed to rescue Satyam?
Actually, when government nominated us, they gave us full freedom to take decisions and to decide on the modus operandi. So after we joined, the first board meeting was They held, the first three held the board meeting on 12th January. We held our first board meeting, all the six of us, on 17th of January. So on 17th of January, while critical decisions were being taken, I proposed that since it is at the call of the nation, we are all on this duty, whatever time it takes, let us not take any sitting fee or any compensation.
Wow.
So we will do it pro bono. And it was so heartening that when the ideas sank in for a few seconds, it was a unanimous decision from all the six of us. Yes, we will do it pro bono.
But despite the time commitment which will be gone in the next 3 months, you were aware about that?
We never knew it's going to be completed in 100 days.
Okay.
But still, that was the courage of conviction. We felt that this is a task assigned by the government, and as citizen of India, we are duty bound to carry it out with utmost dedication and not for anything in return. That was the thought process.
Let's talk about the Satyam scandal now, which is the hot topic of the conversation today. If you were to explain the entire Satyam scandal to a 13-year-old, what went wrong, that will be good to start off with, and then we can talk about how did you revive.
Actually, before directly answering your question, I want to clear some myth.
Sure.
There is a perception in the minds of public that Satyam scam is something where the promoter Ramalinga Raju has swindled millions and billions of money of the company. You'll be surprised to know when I clarify, there was no diversion of funds in the entire fraud. It was not siphoning of funds at all. It was manipulation of accounts. It was fudging of accounts. So what the genesis of the fraud, if I can say, Satyam, maybe because of global financial crisis or even before that, there were certain dip in the top line. Revenues were falling. And due to increase in expenses, profitability was also jeopardized. Like hardly 3% profit and all that. Margins declined severely. So it is possible that somebody advised the promoter, this will deteriorate our ranking position in the market. So we need to do something.
But why were the revenues falling or the profitability shrinking?
Revenue was falling because, as I said, the orders were dwindling.
So this was a common industry problem or specific to Satyam?
It became common industry problem when global financial crisis erupted. Okay. But maybe much before that, Satyam had this because of the second aspect. Second aspect is the bench size of Satyam was abnormal. And more people without jobs. Waiting for the pipeline. So when the pipeline was not coming up, they were paid salaries without work. Oh. So generally in IT sector, bench size is 10-12% and all that. But in Satyam, I think it went beyond 15%, 20%. 20% of your workforce not without any jobs.
So it means that 20% of the people, they are paid salaries, but they are not doing any
work. That kind of a thing. So that is what called bench size in IT sector.
Was it because of overhiring?
Yeah, overhiring. Satyam had many positives, but some of these things maybe went out of their control.
Got it.
So, but at the same time, you cannot project and suffer in the market. Maybe this thought prevailed. So instead of looking at permanent solution, some short-term solutions were thought of. So what they did, fictitious billing was raised for existing customers, or where you would have concluded the order, but still you continued to do billing fictitiously, or you created fictitious billing in non-existent customers' names. And once you raise the bill, you have to show it as collected. And you cannot collect in cash. It has to come through bank statements. So bank statements were fudged to show as if all these monies came in. And once you show monies have come in through bank account, you have to either spend it or show it as invested. One of the two only is possible. But to show it as spent, you need to produce bills, evidence and all that, which is very difficult. Again, fabricating all that will be tough. So instead it was shown as deposited in banks, fixed deposits in banks. So in X bank, 800 crores. So one FD receipt has to be fabricated, that's all. And Y bank, 2000 crores, another FD receipt. Like that, 5000 crores of bogus fixed deposit receipts were created.
My God.
Actually, the falsification doesn't stop there. See, once you show bank deposits, you must show interest income from those deposits in the income tax returns.
Yeah.
Because software income was exempt those days, but bank interest is not exempt, even for IT companies. So much was shown and tax ought to have been paid. So non-existent income shown as income and tax paid. That's why when I met CBDT chairman during those days in one of the social functions, he, on one-to-one conversation, he asked me privately, Manoharan, in case we reopen Satyam, whether we have to refund all that tax paid because it was non-existent income.
Yeah.
So I smiled at him and said, sir, I am yet to study the whole matter in depth. We will get to know in future. Good that I said like that, because later it turned out that the tax credit claimed, because when IT companies, when they pay tax in other jurisdictions, some set off can be done. So the tax credit claimed was also significantly bogus.
How was that possible? By
Falsification of challans and payments.
Okay.
So, lot of falsification. I mean, one led to the other. One led to the other. But of course, ultimately, if the entire fictitious income is removed, the entire bogus credit claim, tax credit claim is removed, still Satyam may have to get some small refund. But it will not be huge refund, it will be a few hundred crores or 100 crores maybe. That tussle is going on now. There is a legal battle going on.
Oh, it's ongoing.
Ongoing, because department wants to remove the fictitious tax credits, but it doesn't want to remove the fictitious income. He says, you only offered it, you pay tax on this. Which means several thousands of crores, hundreds of crores has to be paid for each assessment here. Which is unreasonable. So that's why the matter is in the court. Hopefully a fair verdict will come where Satyam is not interested in refund also, which means now Tech Mahindra.
Right.
They want truce, peace of mind. I don't want any refund, but you don't demand on an income which never existed. So let us call it truce. I mean, neutralize it. Remove fictitious income, remove fictitious credit, and whatever is the small refund that may be due, we are willing to forego it. So that we don't want to pay anything further. That is the kind of plea they are taking. Hopefully they'll succeed, because that looks very logical.
Right. What was the total quantum of fraud in Satyam scandal?
Yeah. See, actually, according to the confession, and if you work on those lines, it looked like 7,000 crores of fictitious, fudging of accounts. Fudging of accounts. And whereas CBI, I think, filed a charge sheet, worked it out around 14,000 crores or something, double the thing. Oh. But I think, one thing in my experience, I can say, having worked in close quarters all through the revival, and not only that, after Mahindras took over, for 3 years I was asked by the government to continue as government nominee on the board of Mahindra Satyam and subsequently in Tech Mahindra, because continuity. All other government nominated directors were withdrawn, and myself and Achyutan were requested to continue.
Okay.
And of course, Achyutan expired halfway through. So I continued for the entire 3 years, even after Mahindras took over.
Got it.
So therefore, I can say that this is this was very clear, operation and smoothly done. So nothing like diversification of funds or siphoning of funds, so to say.
Right. And I had also read somewhere that they had incorporated one dummy entity which was inverted of Satyam, Maytas, Maytas. So
No, actually it is a real entity. There are two companies, Matters Infra and Matters Properties.
Yeah, this is exactly ulta of Satyam.
Spelling wise, Satyam reversed will be Matters.
Yeah.
And these were owned by his sons.
Okay.
Sons and family members. But they are real companies.
Okay.
They are real companies. One way the promoter of Satyam wanted to clean up the whole bit before confession letter. Confession letter was given on 7th January. In December board meeting, there was a proposal for Matters to take over, Satyam to take over Matters.
Okay.
So the idea was Matters had huge land bank. So if Matters Properties merged with Satyam, Satyam will take over the land bank and show these false fixed deposits as consideration paid.
For the land.
Land. So the land will be revalued and taken on balance sheet. So which means actually the intent was good in a way. That is, fictitious assets will be replaced by real assets, whatever it was worth. But shareholders were not liking that idea.
Why?
Because Satyam was a globally renowned company and a premier company, an IT company. Why should it take over a real estate company? So it is not anything to do with IT business. And so they did not know the background of this, why the intent was to replace fictitious assets with real asset. That they did not know. So they thought maybe son's company is coming in and money will go to the sons. So from that angle they ruled it out.
Got it.
Ruled it out.
Yep. Very interesting. So you said about the confession letter which was emailed on 7 Jan 2009. Do you recall what exactly was written in that confession letter and how was that entire thing?
No, the substance of the confession letter highlighted what I just now narrated as the genesis of the fraud.
Yeah.
And it also mentioned that how liquidity crisis was looming large, and therefore the promoter had to borrow from its own group firms to pay the salaries for last few months. And he also made it clear none of the leaders within the Satyam hierarchy knew about this fraud. And ultimately he even suggested how the company can be revived by the management to take it forward while he is willing to face the consequences.
Okay.
So and in fact he used a phrase which reveals all. He says it was like riding a tiger, not knowing how to get off without being eaten. So which meant that to make up the gaps, they must have started fudging the accounts in a small way 6 years ago. But thinking that it will be cleaned up next year, next quarter. But over a period of time, it got piling up. The volume, increased manyfold. So, but he could not prolong it any further. So he thought, let us disclose it, confess it. That's why Satyam is a peculiar case. It was not a case of investigation triggering confession.
Right.
It was a case of confession that triggered the investigation.
Yeah, this was not a whistleblowing case where
No.
someone else is pointing
No.
out that fraud has been
Yeah,
committed.
yeah.
It would have been the first time, no, in the Indian
Yeah,
history.
that's why.
that
It's
the
something
promoter-
unique. Yeah.
Promoter himself is confessing that he has committed a fraud. Yeah, that's pretty strange also, but shows the, I don't know, honesty or something, but it also shows the other side of Ramalinga Raju. I mean, like, he was, at least, he had the courage to, like, confess this to SEBI. Otherwise, like, there are, like, people also who will fly away, who will just, like, go to other countries and all.
Actually, one thing that was, I mean, I would say two good things in that confession letter at micro level. One, he was very particular to name the people who could be suspected, but he made it clear they were not party to it.
Oh, okay.
Second, he, irrespective of what happens to him, he wanted to protect the company. He wanted it to be saved.
Yeah.
Before it becomes too late and beyond redemption.
Right.
So that was very, very, I mean, it requires, as you said, a lot of courage and well-meaning gesture to come out boldly.
Correct.
So that devoid of what the past, at least the future of Satyam is protected.
Right. Let's talk about your now experience, now the entire 100-day journey as well. So you said 15th Jan was the day when you were announced as one of the directors, and then like the next 100 days journey starts. So let's break it down into month-wise. So February, March, and April. So what happened in the first board meeting, and what were some of the actions you took, and then we'll listen to the journey forward.
Actually, till February, I mean, during January, government did not name any of us as chairman of the board. So we were all special directors. So this journey was in January. So January, what we had to do was, we had to tie up loose ends. We first took stock of the gravity of the issues, magnitude of the problems on hand. For example, when I got down in Hyderabad airport, I was picked up by a chauffeur-driven car, travel agency car, sent by Satyam. So after befriending me, he slowly said, "Sir, our bills are pending for last few months. My owner wanted me to request you to settle it." And same was the story in the hotel check-in formality. So I could sense a lot of dues are there for service providers, vendors. And within a week of our getting in, the management, top leadership, Satyam had excellent leadership talent. So a dozen of them sent an appeal to the board, government nominated board, an SOS, so message, where they've highlighted the crux of the financial problem that exists. Because first thing is, every month the salary bill is 500 crores. And outstanding dues for the vendors is 2,000 crores approximately, suppliers and vendors. And then automatically you tend to look at what are the dues from customers, with the hope that can meet the obligations. But unfortunately that was 1,700. But out of the 1,700, how much is genuine, how much is fictitious billing? That bifurcation we have to do. Ultimately it turned out that about 300 crores or so was fictitious sundry debtors sitting in the balance sheet, which we can never realize it because it's all fictitious billing. So like that, so the gravity was that there was acute financial crisis, liquidity crisis. And employees were worried about the continuity of their jobs. So in that scenario, January month, glad we had veterans in the board. Deepak Parekh, being such a renowned banker, he could take initiatives, and we could analyze and find that Satyam had excellent properties in Hyderabad. In one place 25 acres, in another place about 100 plus acres. So these two properties were worth then estimated at 2,000 crores by themselves. And we thought we could, on the security of these properties, we could raise some loans, stopgap arrangements.
What is a stopgap arrangement?
Temporary loans from banks. So again, we were not sure who will come forward to lend in that crisis situation, but because of the reputation and goodwill of Mr. Deepak Parekh, we could tie up with Bank of Baroda for 300 crores and IDBI Bank for 300 crores. So 600 crores stopgap arrangement was raised, and so that gave us enormous confidence. And so the January month, since you said month by month analysis, January month was devoted for analyzing the issues on hand. 3 top priorities were identified. One is the financial stability, which is very essential, because Satyam was like a patient in the ICU. So finance was like oxygen to survive. So we arranged that by this process in January itself. Second thing was, who are all the experts to be engaged, appointed? So legal experts, management consultant experts, and to defend cases both in US and here, lawyers. So all those things we tied up, and even within the setup to appoint, interim CEO, Mr. A.S. Murthy got appointed as interim CEO.
So this was about January, identifying the issues and the next steps.
Appointing people and tying up loans.
So before the February thing, so just quick questions here. So you said there were 4 board meetings that happened in January. You chaired the 4th one. So what exactly, how does a board meeting work, and what is the duration of the board meeting? How do you discuss? And these are some things which we don't know because we've never been into board meetings as such. So what happens exactly?
Yeah, actually, generally in corporate world, board meetings happen once in 3 months, generally. But in the case of banking sector, it is different. It happens monthly. Every month there will be a board meeting, and if need be, there could be 2 also, depending on the agenda items. But in the case of Satyam, we felt that it is a crisis situation. It is a kind of an emergency that demands more continuous monitoring and attention. So we felt we have to be very dynamic and robust in responding to the ground reality and issues that were cropping up. For example, I used to list out 10 issues on a day, resolve 4 or 5, and sleep for a few hours and get up. Then it would have become 15 by the time I get up. So because it's 66 countries and 600 plus global customers and 50,000 plus employees. So multivarious issues cropping up and all. And when things go wrong, there are always claimants who come forward with their own thing. And customers were threatening to terminate the contracts. Some of the employees who wanted to resign and go, who were very critical for execution of jobs. So all these had to be tackled simultaneously. So therefore, when the board discussed, okay, we meet every week and take strategic decisions and moves, but somebody has to be here 24/7 because there's some signatures required, some monitoring, oversight is required. So I offered to be there 24/7.
Got it. Perfect. So let's talk about the February month now. So Jan is now done in order to find the legal experts and the consultants and all. How was February and what happened?
February, we had to brainstorm. We had a strategic meeting. We had to brainstorm how long we are going to do this. Regularizing, cleaning up, and then finally discover the real value of Satyam, then float it for takeover. That is option 1. Option 2, we have now managed to convince majority of the clients, customers, employees, we are in the path of recovery, give us some support and cooperate, so that very soon you will find a new owner taking control, and therefore nothing will go haywire for you, nothing will be derailed. So your project continuity, confidentiality, everything will be preserved, execution will be smooth. So best is to start the process of inviting investors to express their interest at the earliest, because as is where is condition, why not go in? So this was a second option. Then we analyzed the pros and cons. We felt Satyam from ICU, we have brought it to the normal ward, where it is now in a position to walk, breathe comfortably without any assistance, equipments. It is able to have intake, and it is also, healthy, reasonably healthy. It may not be able to run, but it is reasonably healthy. That kind of a status we have brought in. Now, unless we start this process of identifying the strategic investor, it may be too late, by which time some of the customers may lose patience and terminate the contracts. Some of the employees may resign and go. So, and we are not the owners. We are here for a purpose. So, we should not test the endurance, patience of all the stakeholders beyond a point in time. So we opted for the second option. So second half of February month was for applying to SEBI for relaxation of the takeover scheme, so that it should not take too long a period, certain exemptions, relaxations, all that. And petitions were filed, company law petitions were filed to facilitate all these things and to take approval. So that was the second half of February. So the February went on with tying up loose, statutory dues, departments handling, gaining immunity, then kick-starting the preparatory work for this takeover, invoking takeover regulations.
Got it. So in the takeover regulation, this means that you would approach some company which will buy Satyam. We
will invite offers. Expression of interest.
Okay.
So actually that all happened in March.
Got it.
In the month of March, when we floated this and invited, about 141 responses came.
Oh wow!
But initially we were surprised and jubilant. So many want to take over Satyam, but many of them were also fictitious.
Oh, this was also fictitious.
Fictitious. In fact, in the name of Ramalinga Raju, his brother and all, there were expression of interest. But later it was proved to be false. And similarly, there were people who expressed interest with no capability of taking over Satyam.
Okay.
That also was there. So finally, out of 141, 10 expression of interest appeared genuine, bona fide, and with some track record.
And capable of
capability.
Satyam.
But that again, by the time we wanted documents, formalities to be done, guarantee to be given, it turned out to be 7. And out of 7, again, those who complied with our submission of documents requirement, only 5 submitted. And out of that 5, 2 of them backed out because they did not get their shareholders' approval to go ahead.
Okay.
So with the result, only 3 remained in the race.
Got it.
Finally.
Got it. So February thing, like you mentioned, the statutory dues collection and applying to SEBI, that happened in Feb. And then March, of course, we'll discuss about the auction thing in detail. But when was the point when it was difficult for you to convince the customers to keep contracts with Satyam and convince the employees to stay back with the company? When did that happen?
Yeah, that was in the initial stage itself, in the January-February transition.
Okay.
Customers had one simple statement: we are a reputed company, you are a tainted company. Why should we work with you?
What kind of customers are these? Can you name some companies?
No, see, customers were in US, Australia, and Europe. So all these different continents, but some of them where fraud happens everywhere. So long as you can guarantee continuity of project, we don't mind.
Yeah.
That was the attitude. I would say most of the European companies were like that.
Okay.
They looked at it from a different perspective. Actually, US companies were more ruthless in wanting to terminate because they had their own pressure from their management head or top or shareholders. So it was like that. But we could convince them over a period of time. In fact, I toured around Middle East. Middle East, I devoted and toured to Bahrain, then Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, everywhere, met the customers, vendors, and where the attrition was almost zero. So, what we told the customers was, Government of India is keen on reviving the company. And we are investing our whole time to do it. We will not spare any effort in this direction. All that we request you is wait and watch for a few weeks. If going is good, satisfactory, continue to patronize. Otherwise, in spite of waiting and watching for few weeks, if you think things are not going in a positive direction or you have no confidence on us, tell us. We will help to migrate you to a competitive service provider, alternative service provider. And we did not stop there. We went one step further. In case the competitive service provider doesn't have the bandwidth to execute your project, we will rebadge our employees on their payroll so that the continuity is not hampered. So this kind of a transparent talk worked wonders with the customers. They said, okay, after all they need a few weeks. See, one advantage, actually the hidden strength of this strategy was, in a brick and mortar industry, like cement industry or steel industry, in any of those commodities being sold, produced and sold, you can terminate the contract, cancel the order overnight and place similar order to another supplier. In IT, software execution industry, you cannot do that. It takes time for you to migrate without derailing the continuity and confidentiality. It takes 3 to 4 months. That advantage, we used it like this.
Yeah.
So customers also had no other option, to put it in a blunt way, but we did not highlight that. But they also thought this makes this a logical way to follow. Even if to migrate we need time, let us wait and watch before taking that step. So they deferred. And employees, what approach we adopted was, we told them very simple: we are strangers to Satyam. You are what you are because of Satyam. So, because many of them were 15 years, 20 years with Satyam. So, this is the time Satyam needs you. It is, everybody is saying it is a sinking ship, but you are the sailor who can make it, float again. We have to bring the business back on track. And only if you cooperate, we can do it. So give us an helping hand so that we will revive the company. And few months down the line, when we accomplish this job, you can look back with a sense of satisfaction that you paid the gratitude which you owe it to this company. And you did not desert it for your personal interest. After that, you migrate anywhere you want. So this is the kind of approach which again worked wonders. They all cooperated. In fact, In that customers, I said no, they were willing to wait and watch on one condition. Every week we'll have a follow-up call. So at the end of every call, I used to ask them only one question. How is the service delivery by the Satyamites, employees of Satyam? I was so happy that every customer uniformly started responding to that question by saying, before the fraud, it was good. Now it is the best. Which meant that the Satyam employees decided it is now or never, do or die.
Wow.
And we must put our heart and soul and give the best. Maybe that statement which we made, we are nobody, we want to revive. You are what you are because of Satyam, so you give your best.
Yeah.
And so that made it possible. So this is how I would say it.
In those 3 months period, how many hours you used to sleep on an average and how many hours you used to work?
All that I remember is very erratic sleeping hours and food habits and no time to exercise because different time zones and calls used to come at early morning 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock from US. So you finish that and sleep. And sometimes when I used to be working, somebody will come and point out your breakfast is still, as it is. This would be 2 o'clock in the afternoon when he has come to check up what I need for lunch. Then I used to realize I have not taken breakfast. So, and in fact, one executive, to sum it up, one executive said, government has not put you on a hot seat. Government has put you on fire straight away.
How did you respond to that statement? Government has put you on fire.
No, actually, Kushal, at your age, you will enjoy this statement. In life, the sweetness of success or the charm of your accomplishment does not depend solely on the distance you have traveled. It is also dependent on what challenges you have surmounted, what hurdles you overcome, what bottlenecks you eliminated on the way. That is what makes it cherishable, worthy of celebrating.
Yeah, I remember there was one student, I think at some international, like outside India, some student met you and he was telling his mom that he's Shri and Manoharan sir and he's saving Satyam.
Correct. Actually, the entire campus had many Satyam employees and they were all debating job is insecure, whether salary will come and all that. And she was there as a visiting guest, my S12 student's mother. She took the courage to stand up and tell all of them in that social gathering, so-and-so has gone onto the board. I know about him. You will not lose your jobs. Your payments will be on time. Nothing to be worried. They were all taken aback. But all that they were wanting was some solace of comfort that came from her.
Yeah.
Unknown quarters. And when I came to know about it, conveyed through the student, I thought that reaffirmed, validated my resolve that come what may, we have to dive deep and rescue Satyam.
Right. Very fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the month of March now and the auction process as well, which happened. So now Jan is done, Feb is done, and now it's the beginning of March. You mentioned that March was entirely into identifying the takeover, the bidders and auctions
process
that happened. So how was that month? And you said 141 responses were there, but a lot of them were fictitious. 10 were final. Out of 10, 5 were there, 2 backed out, and then 3 remained. So who were these 3 and how was that entire process?
Actually, we took one important decision with regard to this. Once we kick-started appointing investment bankers and applying to SEBI and CLB for a smooth process, approvals and all the relaxations, they were coming because that is the best support the government and authorities, regulators gave us. They were very considerate, and that was happening on one side. But we also felt, 6 of us from different walks of life, we have never worked together before, are planted with absolute freedom and liberty. Tomorrow, now elections are in the offing. In the month of May, public elections are there. 2009 I'm talking about. And anything can happen. And what if somebody after 6 months or after 1 year or after 5 years raises a point of probity in the whole process? How are we going to stand up and defend? Let us hope nothing of that sort will happen, but foresight is required in this matter. Therefore, we said, why not have a retired Supreme Court judge to oversee the whole bidding process so that it is equitable, fair and transparent. So we approached few one by one, and finally we could zero in, and he also gracefully agreed. Former Chief Justice of India, S.P. Barucha, Justice S.P. Barucha, he agreed to be the observer for the bidding process. So after that, most of the meetings were happening in Mumbai, either in HDFC or in Taj hotels. So we ran through the process. We were, according to the relaxations, we modified, molded, and we issued documents, all those things. So it was completely on a weekly basis. We were monitoring and tracking so that it's all being done. And the three strategic investors finally remained in the race, for whom management presentations were made, inspection was done, site inspection was arranged, and legal and financial queries were answered in calls independently arranged. All were L&T, Tech Mahindra and Wilbur Ross. So three of them went through all these stages, and the requirement for them was study all this, also access virtual data room, and then do your calculations, but submit two bids. One technical bid which will demonstrate as to your track record on global operations, your ability to take over Satyam and run, all those things. Because government and government nominated board never wanted Satyam to be taken over by a company which would decide not to carry on the business but strip off the assets and make money. I have invested 3,000 crores. Now by selling the assets, I have made 5,000 crores. Who cares about business continuity, job opportunity, image of India? No. We never wanted that kind of a scenario. So that is why technical bid, to demonstrate their authenticity, capability, competitiveness. And next is the financial bid. So only if you qualify in the technical bid, your financial bid will be opened. There you quote what you offer per share. So all the three, the D-Day was April 13th. Hotel president, Taj president. So they walked in, submitted bids, and then in the presence of Justice S.P. Barucha, we opened the technical bid that was reviewed and examined. We found all the three eligible. Then we moved on to open the financial bid. We had an interesting clause, or clause which is in the interest of the stakeholders of Satyam. That is, if there is any bidder who is within the 10% range of the highest bidder, then among them there will be rebidding process that will happen, so that we can maximize the value
for the shareholders.
For the shareholders. So when we opened the financial bid, L&T was 45.90, Wilbur Ross was 20
Per share, right?
per share, and Tech Mahindra was 58 rupees.
Okay. So the
So
10% did not get triggered.
yeah,
here.
if Tech Mahindra was below 50,
Hmm.
then there would have been rebidding. So suppose Tech Mahindra was 50 rupees, L&T 45.90.
Hmm.
So within above 90% of
Yeah.
50 rupees, L&T would have been. Then there would have been rebidding between both of them.
There would be goosebumps going around at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
time,
yeah.
right? Like, how was
Yes.
that feeling there? Like, there would be some insecurities and fear also, right? What if, like, something wrong goes here? What if people don't turn up?
Yeah,
and that might be
No,
the right-
actually, I used to address leadership calls every week. Leadership calls almost every evening, but each vertical in Satyam, I used to address them across the globe on a weekly basis. So one such call was on April 7th, 1 week before the bidding day. And so I addressed them, updated them, and I concluded my speech saying, you are in for a good times. Because by 1 week from now, we'll have the new owner who will infuse capital, take control of things. So when I was about to conclude, one person in the auditorium stood up and said, Manoharan, one last question. I said, go ahead. He said, suppose on 13th April, if nobody turns up to submit the bid, what will you do? Actually, my heart skipped a beat, because that was the last thing I imagined or visualized. After so much of hard work and turmoil, we wanted a finish to the whole episode, completion to the whole episode. So, I personally believe, Kushal, is not pure human efforts alone, it's divine intervention also. That's what I believe. So, I don't know where from I got the response. I smiled at him and said, don't worry, we have plan B. Immediately he said, if you have plan B, then we have nothing to worry. And everybody cheered and dispersed. Then I was sitting alone wondering, what is that plan B I was talking about? So that was it.
Wow. So you did not have a plan B and you just mentioned that we have something.
Absolutely.
Just so that the confidence is
confident.
instilled.
Because that time what was crucial was not to allow their moral strength or confidence to get diluted.
So I think that was just amazing. The confidence would have been instilled in all the people sitting over there. Just one quick question. So now Tech Mahindra, you said they bid for 58 rupees per share. So was the valuation fair according to you? Like about 58 per share, what was going on in your mind and as far as numbers were concerned?
Actually, it was the best Satyam could have expected.
Okay.
Let me put it slightly differently. Again, this has no backing. It's my gut feeling. According to me, Satyam shares, in terms of asset value and all that, was 150 rupees.
Per share?
My value,
Your value.
the value I can attribute to Satyam at that given point in time was 150 rupees.
Okay.
But there were so many claims, things in litigation and all, which would have robbed 50 rupees. See, any strategic investor who is taking should set apart 50 rupees for that.
Okay.
And similarly, for all the other turmoil of cleaning up the past baggage, unproductive work, business, if you are able to concentrate from day one and run the business, you will not be spending so much of man hours, time, effort on cleaning up past baggage. But here it is required. So for all that, I would say another 30, 40 rupees you have to set apart. So effectively it could have been 60 or 70 rupees. If you remove that 50 plus 30, 80 from 150, it comes to 70.
Yeah.
Maybe if L&T was 55 rupees, Techem was 58 rupees, and there was rebidding, I'm sure one of them would have gone up to 70. Or Mahindra was mentally prepared for 65, 70. If need be, they kept that cushion and submitted 58. It clicked there itself. But let me tell you, hats off to Mr. Anand Mahindra, because I think his statesmanship, patriotism was very instrumental in Mahindra Group plunging into the bidding process. And in a way, it is good that Tech Mahindra ultimately succeeded, because the Satyam could scale up with all its divergent verticals, which Tech Mahindra did not have, only complemented the synergy. So today, if you look back, the employee size is 150,000.
Wow.
And the number of countries in which operations are going on is 105 countries. And top line has grown 3 times. So therefore, on all frontiers, the scaling up has happened and all that. And in between there was splitting of shares, then bonus was given, and dividend declaration is consistent even during COVID period, year after year. So, and now the market price of shares is about 1,200 plus. All that, investors have redeemed. Those who had faith, they were not disappointed.
Your life is the perfect example of the phrase, the first 25 years are for learning, next 25 are for earning, and the last 25 are for returning. So
yes,
I think it sums it up very well.
Very true.
So the Feb, March, April crisis, which was there, the Satyam scandal part, so we've discussed everything about that, but just according to you, what would be your most challenging experience or the most challenging part in the entire 3 months for you?
Yeah. Actually, see, the employees were the worst affected lot. So, for example, when the confession letter was revealed, the whole dynamics around employees changed. For example, in Europe, where employees were sleeping in the hotel room, early morning hours, the hotel called them and said, your credit cards have been deactivated, so either you have to pay or exit in that freezing cold.
Very scary.
Yeah, scary. And back in Hyderabad, Satyam employees were premium customers wherever they visited. They used to be given red carpet welcome, even in restaurants, everywhere. But that changed. In fact, Satyam employees themselves were not happy to disclose they are employees of Satyam. That was a gloomy scenario that erupted. In fact, you will be surprised to know they were not sure of the employment. They were not sure whether the checks given for automobile loan, housing loan will get honored. And their entire savings, some of them, what they have earned in terms of few crores of rupees, were invested in ESOPs of Satyam, which were not worth the paper on which it was printed. Suddenly it looked so gloomy. And some of the families needed money for some higher education in the family, son or daughter, marriage. So they were wondering where from they are going to mobilize the funds because of this ESOP. Otherwise they could have sold the ESOPs. And in close quarters, where finance department guys were summoned and their names were flashing in newspaper left, right and center, some of the neighbors instructed their children not to play with the children of Satyam employees. And in a social function, when this guy walks in, people gave way, not because he is a VIP, because nobody wanted to greet him or make others know that he is known to them. Distance was maintained as if he is untouchable. All these things. And one guy told me, I hope the alliance I have fixed up goes through smoothly for my daughter. Of course, ultimately it went through, but these were the turmoil they were going through.
Yeah.
Not knowing what is in store for the future. But But after the January 31st, when the salary hit their bank account globally with no defaults, I think, and I was also visiting every office. Satyam had 9 offices in Hyderabad. Every office I went from here to there to address them in groups and groups to infuse confidence and faith and how we should not succumb to what appears to be a crisis. We can easily surmount it and overcome it.
Yeah. Your base location was Hyderabad for those 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months. In fact,
there.
yeah. In fact, the driver who was chauffeuring the car for Ramalinga Raju used to drive for
okay.
Ramulu. Right.
How was Padma Shri award, and how was that entire experience, and how did you react when you got the call from the government of India that congratulations, you have been awarded as this?
I think after making due diligence, they seem to have finalized the list, and I got the call 2 days or 1 day before the Republic Day in 2010. Okay. 25th January 2010, that tomorrow we are releasing the list of awardees, so your name will appear in that. I really did not believe it to be true. I thought it's a hoax. And after some time, I realized it is true, then I wondered, what did I do to earn this? And of course, I told you already, it was Mr. Tarun Das and the government nominated board who nominated my name. And it so happened, for what little I contributed in Satyam turnaround. But initially, I was angry with the government. I mean, don't mistake me for using this word. Why I was angry was, like I said before, I have done it as a duty. Why government should reward me with an award and settle the score? I don't want anything in return. Then only I feel great that I have done something to the country. Now country has done to me in reverse award, so I cannot feel proud of having done something because score is settled. I never wanted that kind of a scenario. But anyway, that was the initial thought as a son of a freedom fighter. But later, when the entire fraternity of chartered accountants started celebrating it, as if each one of them have got the Padma Shri, I felt okay. It seems to give sense of positive feeling, happiness to my colleagues in the profession. Then why not? Yeah. So that anger subsided. A sense of satisfaction came. Maybe this is my contribution to the profession, like that. Yeah. But when the D-Day came, the date of presentation of the award, 7th of April 2010, which incidentally happens to be my 54th birthday also. Oh, wow. So when I wanted to take both my parents and my wife, 3 invitees along with me, which is allowed. But there was no way I could take my father, who was a freedom fighter, who was then 95 years old. There was no way I could take him because when he was 90 years old, his vision blurred and he lost sights, both the eyesights. So even if I transport him to Delhi and take him to Rashtrapati Bhavan, he can only listen, he cannot see. So I thought, let him as well not undergo this discomfort of traveling those distances, formalities, all those. And in all those, in India, we are not yet still infrastructure friendly for challenged ones. Some places it is conducive, but not in every public facility. So let us hope that also will be done. So I told my brothers and sisters to be with him in native village where he lives. So I left him there with my brothers and sisters so that they will explain to him when it happens in the telecast, Doordarshan telecast. And I took my mother and my wife to Delhi, and so they were in the audience, my wife and mother. And I went to, when my name was announced, I went to receive. It was telecast live by Doordarshan. My sister was explaining to my dad. And So when I received the award, my mother and wife stood up and clapped. And then later I came to know that my father, who cannot see, tears were rolling down his eyes.
Wow.
And and seeing the joy on the face of my mother, who witnessed it live and was like a young child clapping for the award I was receiving, and knowing my father was so emotional on that happening, that anger becoming satisfaction, became joy, unbounded joy and happiness, because I felt this is the greatest thing I could have given to my parents.
I'm just getting goosebumps right now, and I'm so touched about the story of your dad having tears when you were getting the award. Very, very inspiring. Last thing, last question again. So you mentioned one of the lessons which you learned from this entire incident is that in life's books of accounts there is no contra entry, debit and credit. What are some other lessons which you have learned and all of us can learn from this entire Satyam scandal and the turnaround?
Yeah. Actually, in life, there will always be temptations. There will be some opportunities. In the journey of our life, we should be very clear. We will not yield for any temptation, but we will not miss also any opportunity. And for heaven's sake, let us not nurture greed, because greed only grabs our temptations. Whereas if you have contentment in life, you should be aspirational, but with contentment and ethics. Aspiration, when it is backed by contentment and ethics, you will only choose opportunities, right opportunities, and work towards it and make it a reality. So that is one thing that I learned out of this.
Definitely. You would be feeling very nostalgic right now about your 100 days as well. I'm pretty sure, I'm just imagining how difficult it would have been throughout those 100 days. But kudos to you, and just a huge respect for everyone who was there, who revived the entire Indian nation. And I had mentioned, beautifully in one of my LinkedIn posts about you, that in India, we need more of people like you. So as of now, there is Mr. T.N. Manoharan. In India, we need more of them as of now. So that is something which I had mentioned. So thank you so much for doing this. I had an amazing time, and you've inspired me a lot. You've inspired everyone a lot. So thank you so much for this. I hope I could do justice to your time as well. And for everyone who's listening to this also, if you really want to know the detailed version, the Tech Phoenix is available. And you can check the link in the description box for ordering that book. Thank you so much for writing this amazing book as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kushal. It is wonderful conversing with you for the last 2 hours. I am humbled. Thank you. God has been kind.
Thank you so much, sir, for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you, Kushal.
आई होप आपको वैल्यू मिली होगी ये वीडियो से. अगर आपको थोड़ी सी भी वैल्यू मिली होगी तो आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू शेयर दिस वीडियो विद एटलीस्ट वन फ्रेंड यू नो, सो दैट दे ऑल्सो कैन गेट अ लॉट ऑफ इनसाइट्स फ्रॉम दिस. एंड प्लीज लेट अस नो कि आपको कौन से पार्ट सबसे ज्यादा पसंद आए, आपको कौन से पार्ट बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं आए, एंड आपको कौन से टाइप के गेस्ट चाहिए, एंड व्हाट काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस यू वांट अस टू आस्क ऑल दीज गेस्ट, सो दैट वी गिव यू द मोस्ट पॉसिबल वैल्यू इन द शॉर्टेस्ट अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम. थैंक यू so much for watching this video. Do let us know in the comment section about the feedback for the same, and stay tuned for more episodes of Konversation with Kushal.